So you want to trade with leverage. In this video, I'm going to teach you what leverage is, how it works, and how you can use it to your advantage, and how I made over 114% in just 2 hours, step by step. And real quick, I just want to say this is not financial advice, for education purposes only. All right, let's dive in. I'm going to give you some live examples and show you how to actually do this, but first we need to understand what leverage is. Leverage is essentially borrowing money. You are trading with borrowed money. So it's really an amplification tool. It can be a double-edged sword because it can work in your favor, but can very quickly go against you. So let's give a quick example that's easy to understand. You have $100 in your trading account, and you choose to use 10x leverage. That means your total position size is 10 times 100, which is $1,000. You are literally trading with 10 times the amount of money. And remember, that's borrowed money. Now, if you're familiar with the stock market, you can also use leverage there, but it works very differently. If you trade on margin, you might be able to trade with a larger position size, but if it goes against you, you can actually owe more than the position is worth. You literally will have to sell your other assets to pay the difference. Crypto, on the other hand, is very different. In crypto land, you're able to take the borrowed money, and the only thing at risk is your principal. So if you put in $100 using leverage, the max you can lose is that 100. Let's continue with the 10x leverage example. Every single percentage point is amplified by 10x because you're on 10x leverage. So every 1% is 10%. That works to the upside and the downside. So to reiterate what that looks like, if you're trading on 10x leverage with your $100 and the price moves 1%, you made 10%. Your 100 is magically 110. However, if the price moves 1% against you, your $100 is now only worth 90. This provides massive reward potential, but also massive risk, and most traders are going to lose when they use leverage. Now, there's a lot of different schools of thought on what safe leverage is. In the reality, I don't believe there is safe leverage because what we saw in October was the biggest liquidation event on the planet. Even though many coins flash crashed and quickly regained some of that loss, everybody was liquidated. And I'm going to show you what that means and why it is so important to avoid liquidation at all costs. One thing I will say is that although no leverage is safe, if you are going to use some type of leverage, remember to use a very small percentage of your portfolio and only at optimal times. It's very easy to lose it all with leverage. So if you're trading with a small percentage of your portfolio and you can afford to risk it, leverage might make sense. Otherwise, avoid it completely. Now, this is the thing to look out for. Liquidation. This is the worst word in a leverage trader's dictionary. It means you lose 100% of your capital that you have deployed. And the higher the leverage you use, the easier it is to get liquidated. So think about it this way and look at the first row. If you're on 1x leverage, meaning you're just buying spot, you need to lose 100% of the value to lose your entire principal. If you're using 2x leverage, that happens twice as fast. If the coin goes down 50%, you get liquidated and all of that capital is gone. If we scroll down further, we can see at 20x, it's only about a 5% drop. At 50x, it's only a 2% drop. You lose all of your capital. Now, a quick note, this is really a simplified version. There are other things that factor into this, like trading fees and the funding rate, but this is just a high-level leverage overview right now. So to drive that point home a little further, if you're trading with 10x leverage and the price goes down just 10%, you have been liquidated and lost all of your money. Of course, on the flip side, if it goes up 10%, you've doubled your money, but it's much more likely for the vast majority of traders they are going to lose their money. So now that you know the risk and reward ratios, let me show you how to actually leverage trade. And remember, this is extremely risky and not financial advice. The first thing I'll say is that I only use leverage in periods of extremes. If things are extremely frothy, if there is a lot of euphoria, if the price has spiked an unreasonable level, that could be a time to leverage short. Conversely, if the price is very depressed, it's super oversold, and you see it's at a point in the chart that I'll show you, that could be a time to leverage long. Now, there's so many platforms that you can leverage trade on, the biggest one arguably being Hyperliquid. For some reason, I just don't love their user experience, so I use one called Gains.trade. And this is what it looks like. You connect your wallet in the top right corner as you would for pretty much any crypto site. Remember, you always want to use a VPN when connecting to any site, and be careful because connecting your wallet to a site that looks like the right site but oftentimes isn't can be devastating. So make sure you type the URL directly into the bar, which is Gains.trade in this example. Now you can see in this wallet, I have $1,609 of USDC. You're generally using USDC or BTC USD. I just use USDC. Now let's zoom the chart out a little bit because I want to show you what I'm looking for. So first thing I do is turn on the indicator called RSI, which is the Relative Strength Index. This can be very helpful seeing if a coin is overbought or oversold. It's this purple line down here. And you can see it's pretty clear that more times than not, if it drops below this 30 level, it is very oversold and will likely have at least a little bit of a bump. Now, currently I'm looking at the 15-minute time horizon, but if I were going to do a leverage trade, I'm going to look at the 15, I'll look at the 1 minute, I'll look at the 1 hour, and I'll even look at the 4 hour. The reason I'm doing all of these is that I really want to see that we are in a spot where we are very, very oversold. What I'm looking for here is the chance to leverage long. I want to go long, meaning I want to bet the coin's going to go up. So you can see Bitcoin on a 4 hour is super oversold. Once it drops below that 30 level, it's considered oversold, and we're all the way down here at 23. However, if we go to the 1 hour timeline, you can see a different story. We're more right in the middle at 56. If we go to the 15-minute timeline, we are approaching the oversold level. And on the 1 minute time frame, we are also approaching the oversold level. Now, that's one thing I look at. The other one is the trend line. So let's take a look here. There has been a good level of support here a number of times at 88,134. Probably hard to see on the screen. It's bounced off here a couple times. It did break through briefly, but this has been a decent level of support on the 1 minute chart. If we go back to 15 minutes, we can try to see if this has happened previously. So 15 minutes, we can't see anything else. So let's go further to 1 hour. So while there is a trend here, there is some level of support and resistance. It's not really clear enough. I would much rather take a position here where I see it's bounced off this level multiple times. That's around 86,897. So for a quick review, we're looking at the RSI on various different time frames, and we're looking at the support and resistance lines. Now remember, Bitcoin is the tide that raises and lowers all ships. So likely other coins will behave similarly to Bitcoin, but on an amplified level. So let's call your attention to a token called Virtuals. This is one that I just did a leverage trade on last night into this morning. We can see on the 1 minute time frame, we are approaching the oversold level. But remember, we want to check multiple. On the 15, we're still kind of in the middle here. On the hour, still in the middle. And on the 4 hour, we are basically oversold. Now, if we look back at the 4 hour, we can see this has been a support line and a resistance line a couple different times. We broke through it very easily here, and we're retracing back to that exact line. So what I did was I set a limit order, meaning I don't want the trade to start until it hits this level. And I set it right at 79,939, right? So I set it right here, basically. So I wanted to say, if we come back down to this level, I want to open the trade. So let's zoom in here and see exactly what I did, right? I placed this order last night at 0.793. It filled this morning at 7:15 a.m. And I was using a ridiculous level of leverage, which I never recommend, 27x with $750, which means I was trading with about $20,000 in this position. This is definitely more of a gamble and absolutely not recommended. I just felt we were so oversold and I was willing to take the risk. And let's see what ended up happening. I set my stop loss at minus 50%, so I was basically at risk for around $375. But if the price moved just a little bit, I was going to hit that stop loss. And I set my take profit at 0.828 because I saw that was a level that it could definitely reach and it would give me over 100% gain. So what happened is it triggered at 7:15 a.m. By 9:14, a little less than 2 hours, I had hit that level at 0.828 and the position automatically closed for $859 of profit. I paid an additional fee of $27 USDC. That includes a funding rate and trading fee because you're borrowing the money and using a service, so you're always going to pay fees here. Now, that was just an example of what you can do with leverage, but just as easily it could have gone the other way. I just felt it was worth the gamble and worth the risk. I almost never trade with 27x leverage, and if I do, it's those small dollar amounts, whatever's comfortable. I use $750 there, but it allowed me to trade with $20,000 and get over 100% gain in just 2 hours. And if you're enjoying this content and you want to dive deeper, you want to become a financial disruptor, a financial innovator, then I recommend checking out the Blockchain Boardroom Alpha Hub. We provide crypto trading techniques, systems, processes. We provide trade alerts and even whale wallet tracking so you know what the big money is buying and you can be ahead of the curve. If that's interesting to you, I recommend checking out the description of this video. There's a link there and you can sign up now. All in all, I hope this was a helpful guide on how leverage trading works and how you can potentially use it to your advantage. I do recommend really sharpening your skills and becoming an expert in the space before trying any leverage trading because it's a very easy way to get wrecked. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and I will see you in the next video.